welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Inside Track. We have a fabulous guest with us this morning, John Grindrod from FTC Fitness. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm awesome, as always. And as always, my trusty sidekick, Rob Handy. How are you?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. Thank you for having me back yet again.
Yeah, exactly. So that's 4 on the trot now. So we're doing pretty well, Rob. Doing pretty well.
Right.
It's great to have you on, John. Now, probably the best place to start, because I'm sure most people in the independent world pretty much know who you are, but obviously we do have a wider audience. So do you want to just give us a rundown of your sort of career, where you come from, and what you're doing now?
Okay, yeah. So my dad was in the military, the Royal Air Force, and he got posted to Berlin in the mid-'80s, and I went out there after college, after spending my grant, wasting it and not getting qualified, and I got a job in the gym at RAF Kattau in Berlin, and I worked in the gym, and then from there I then came back to UK and joined the Air Force, the Royal Air Force, as a physical training instructor, and I was in the RAF for 22 years, and I specialised as an exercise rehab instructor during that time. And I worked at Headley Court and places like that, rehabbing injured servicemen. And then my last job in the military was warrant officer operational fitness equipment. So I looked after all the gyms in Afghanistan and stuff like that. It was 200. Wow. And then I came back. I was offered redundancy because the government were trying to save money desperately. So I took that opportunity because I was in my mid-40s, or early 40s, I should say. Because if you come out any later, that it becomes really hard to have a second career. You know, if you come out at 55 when you normally end. So I chose to come out at 43. Came out and I became a master trainer. So I was a master trainer for Technogym, TRX, Toro Pro, Trigger Point, a few other companies. Did a bit of other education, and then during that time, I then decided I was going to open a gym. So I did lots of networking, found a place, and then opened my own gym back in 2018, and been pushing through with that ever since, and given up master training, really, to be fair. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell, really.
Was the gym always a plan, or was it just something you thought, let's give it a crack?
No, I think that back in 2012, when I came out, I did actually say to somebody, I want to open a gym. But what I didn't want to do was open a boutique gym, a small gym where I was the only person, because I felt that I'd be chasing every single penny. It was all about me all of the time. And if you're a single person, or one or two of you running a gym, it's you. Everything is you. You don't get any time away from it. You know what I mean? So I wanted to open a bigger gym, but I obviously didn't understand the idiosyncrasies of that and what that would cost and how hard that was to do. And I think also I just assumed, because in the military, our gyms are all fairly big. We have massive gym halls and stuff like that. I just assumed that all gyms were kind of big. You know what I mean? And I know that may seem daft to everybody else, but I'd only ever been a member of the civvy gyms when I left. I'd only been a member of DW or Click or somewhere like that. So they were all fairly large, really. None of them were these small. Yeah, I'd been in the odd bodybuilding, spit and sawdust kind of place that my mates had got, the odd one. But I don't really call them gyms as such. You know what I mean? The bodybuilding places. So they're very different. So I just assumed everything was big. And so I was looking for ages to find somewhere. And then I got the idea of what I wanted to do. And then I eventually found somewhere. I was very, 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 very lucky, to be fair. And I don't know if you make your luck or you just find it, but you've got to take it when you get it.
I think it's a big combination of the two, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely. Deal with the hand cards dealt almost. So did you tell everyone how big is your gym for start?
So my gym's 17,500 square feet. So we've got a massive strength and conditioning area with pin select as well. We then have we've got an assessment area, interview area for our PTs. We have an academy, so we're active IQ registered and everything. We're an academy in our own right. So we have a classroom, got massive changing rooms, and then we've got a mezzanine floor where we've got loads of cardio, and then we've got an e-gym zone, and then we've got a studio where you can fit 40 to 50 people in. So
it's really interesting, actually, John, because you don't see that many, and e-gym will probably kill me for this, but
Yeah.
you don't see that many independent gyms with an e-gym setup.
No.
It tends to be the sort of larger leisure centres and a larger thing. So just out of interest, how's that gone for you guys? Has it added a huge sort of USP to your business having that?
Well, obviously, I was introduced to that the likes of e-gym before we opened, and obviously showed, and because of my rehab background, and obviously looking at special pops, I always wanted my gym to be able to welcome everybody in, and that. So if you want to get the more mature or the special pops in, you've got to provide a facility or a service for them. So e-gym does that very well. I mean, it's expensive. I'm not going to lie.
Absolutely,
but right, so it's been hard work because we've never had a member of staff really focus on e-gym solely. You know, you kind of have to have an e-gym guru or somebody that looks after it, you know, constantly banging the drum. However, obviously coming out of the pandemic and that, I've obviously they've been trying to get me to look at flex and other bits and stuff, and actually at the Independent Gym Owners Conference a year ago, I was collared by the head of Matrix UK because obviously I hadn't got any Matrix kit in my gym, and I said, "Well, I just said, yeah, good old Tim, lovely guy," and I said to him because I'm not a pure gym basically, and I know that sounds a bit mean, but you know, I've got to stand out differently from pure gym, and pure gym are full of Matrix kit, so you know, it kind of null and voids me going down that road. However, they are one of the two companies that do cardio that integrate with e-gym. And personally, looking at Precore and Matrix, I would say the Matrix is better. And so I spoke to him. We had a good discussion, and I moved forward. And I've bought a couple of Matrix cardio pieces that integrate with e-gym. So I've got a full e-gym circuit, got Matrix bikes, and I've now bought some Flex. We've also got an integrated Tanita scales and the hub. So we're the first independent gym in the UK to have everything. Okay? That was as of January this year. And we've had an upturn, more people using that, and it's attracted more people. But we've also pushed it more. But we started to get more people into e-gym anyway, because obviously we were working with One Life and stuff like that, Suffolk One Life, to work with special pops anyway. And we've had some really good big successes with it, with individuals. And normally you'd only get one or two people in there at a time, but like yesterday I walked in, there was like 8-9 people in there. You know, it's not the biggest area because it's meant to fit in small spaces and stuff as well.
Is e-gym part of the conventional membership, or is it like an add-on membership?
Yeah. So we do two memberships. We do a premium membership and we do a standard. So our standard is gym only, which is strength, you know, all the strength equipment, all the pin select, and all the cardio. Okay. The premium membership includes e-gym on top of that, plus classes. Okay. But there's only £5 difference.
Nice.
All right. So a class, if you were to book a class independently, it would cost you £8.50 or £8.50 extra. So it's a no-brainer. If you're going to do one class a month, you might as well sign up for the premium, because you also get e-gym and you could also get a body composition assessment. Yeah. Which we don't charge anything for, and we, you know, anybody that's on the premium can have that once a month or so.
It's an interesting thing, the pricing model, isn't it? Because obviously you can imagine with what I do, we have that conversation quite a lot, John, and clubs are a bit nervous sometimes of increasing the rate because of competition, whatever. But if you can come up with this sort of premium option and almost do like the coffee shops do, where it's a no-brainer, because that's what they do, don't they? That's the cost and stuff. They're all known for it. It's £2 for a small, it's £3 for a medium, or it's £3.25 for a large. Oh, I may as well have the large. And it's that idea, isn't it, that you sort of package it up to a point that you sort of go, actually, it's a no-brainer. It's one class a week, and it's paid for. Oh, actually, may as well do it. It's £5. But the added revenue you get from doing that becomes quite significant.
Absolutely. You know, you have 2,000 members. You get an extra £5 off each of them. 10 grand.
How many do you think take that premium membership for the classes or for the e-gym? I mean, do you get a feel for what they're going for when they pick that premium?
I mean, we probably have a 40-60 split at our club, I think, with 40% premium, 60% gym only. However, lately now we've upgraded this e-gym and we do this body composition. It's been much easier to push the premium membership,
Yeah.
because on the back of this because we're about to start selling body composition assessments for £10 a go. You know what I mean? So join the premium, you get it every month for £5, but you get to do classes, you get to go on eGym, you can get to do testing, your strength testing, you do your flexibility testing, you do some flexibility training, you do your cardio testing as well at the same time. So, it's a no-brainer when you sell it like that, especially to the older or the more mature. If anybody's 30 plus, it's an easier sell. The youngsters, they just want to get enough weight. All the young lads and the girls, they just want to get in the weight room, do that. It's a social club for them as well. So it's not worth the sale to them unless they're part of the special populations group.
Yeah, definitely. So you've got quite a varied membership base, I'm going to sound of it.
Yes.
How do you think about when you're doing investments? How do you kind of approach the projects and the investments that you want to make in terms of facilities? Because you've got to keep the young ones happy, throwing the weights around, but you've got to keep the elderly, the mature market happy. How do you have an approach, or just kind of look around and see what's?
No, I mean, when I first walked into the building, I could see, it's being able to see what can be put in, isn't it? And I had a plan. I was like, because we had this massive studio, so I've always wanted to do be a class-based gym, but also have strength and conditioning. So those two elements, and often they're separated or they're never done very well. So I had this massive studio. I wanted to have a really well equipped studio, so that in its own right attracts those people that do classes, because it is really well equipped and it's big. And then the same with the weights area or the strength and conditioning area. I wanted to be the best strength and conditioning club in Suffolk. That's my aim. That's my aim for Ipswich. But I didn't want to be a spit and sawdust bodybuilding club. So, and the way to do that is obviously to buy the best equipment that you can. And I'm currently going for an upgrade. And as I'm sure we spoke about this quite often, I'm a big fan of Gym 80.
Yeah.
I think they're up there with Hammer and stuff. So I'm upgrading to Gym 80. People will travel that know the weight training or strength and conditioning side of stuff. They will travel for that kind of equipment. Okay, so we'll get day visitors, but also having that kind of equipment in a very well priced club, very competitively priced club, attracts people as well. So there's that element of it. So we've got a really well equipped club with good strength equipment. We've got a really good studio. eGym brings in that other population, and then cardio. I hate cardio personally. I'd rather put hot needles in my eyes. So I like to have lots of variety. So we've got about 18 or 19 different forms of cardio. So you can spend 2 minutes on each and get a 30-odd minute session in. You know what I mean? If you were that way inclined, or you can spend an hour on a stair climber if that's the way you want to do it.
I think
so
that's
lots
many
of variety,
people's...
and lots of quality. As I get people contacting me all the time now, asking, for advice, or people push them my way. And I say to them, you buy the best equipment that you can afford at the time. Yeah. And then once you can, you then upgrade that to what you actually aspire to be. Because you can't necessarily buy the best at the beginning. Not unless
I think that's the challenge with a lot of clubs do that though. A lot of clubs get pushed by the shiny stuff in it, and by the time they actually open up, their cash flow's in trouble because they've spent too much from the outset, or they've taken on so much of a loan that they can't afford. And you're right. Make your gym successful, and then make those adaptations as you go. You know what I mean? You've been doing it 2018? So 6 years?
6 years. It will be 6 years on March the 1st. So that our birthdays and obviously having your brand, make sure that's strong. Obviously, really important. I was very lucky, and I picked that really off the back of working with TRX. To be honest, that 3 letters. Which are easy to say, flow off the tongue. Nobody really knows what FTC means. I mean, it means functional training company.
Unless you're trying to type out your email, John.
Yeah. However,
that's the only reason I knew it, because I saw his email the other day. I was like, that makes sense now.
Yeah. But I've got one that's just now ftcgym.com.
Much easier.
So I've got 2 emails addressed now. The old one is just a pain to type out, like you say. But yeah, so FTC rolls off, and everybody kind of knows it as FTC now. They don't know what it really means. So strong brand, and then you set a strong ethos within your club with your staff and how you want stuff to be done. So we've worked really hard on that. I've had my challenges with staffing. and eventually I decided I was going to go down the young staff route, and I've brought in a load of youngsters, and then I've started to train them up, and I work on that big time now, because it's not necessarily the best paid industry. Although my assistant manager, she's doing very well, but she's very driven.
Just out of interest, John, because obviously you come from a military background, and obviously military and civvy are vastly different mindsets.
Yeah.
So I can imagine from a staffing point of view, that's probably been a real difficult thing, because obviously when you're in the army or the RAF, it's pretty much this is the role, this is what you do, this is how, and you commit to it and you do it. Civvy is very much more, why are we doing that? So have you found that switch from obviously a very structured workforce to almost a not so much when you come to civility? Have you found that mindset difficult to move to?
Well, I think one of the things you get in service life that you don't in civistry is you expect a level of loyalty in the military, right? Yeah. It's engendered into you from the day you join. Loyalty, your brothers in arms, all of that sort of stuff is engendered into you, and it's driven into you. You're a team. You do nothing by yourself. You do it for the team. You do it for Queen and Country, or King and Country as it is now, and all of that sort of stuff. So you expect a level of loyalty. You don't expect people to go sick. You expect people to turn up. You expect them to work until they don't work from 8 till 5 or whatever it is. They work until the job's finished. Yeah. When I went to Afghanistan and I served there for 6 months, didn't have a day off for 6 months. I worked for 7 days a week for 6 months. That's the way it is. And because you're paid 24/7, 365 days a year. So that's what you do. But obviously you don't do that normally. It's normally Monday to Friday, 8 till 5, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes you get called and you have to do a guard duty. So you have that expected level of loyalty. On civistry, you don't have that. You know what I mean? You simply don't have that. And it's not wrong. And I understand why you don't have that. So you have to approach your staff and what you do with them in a very different way. Yes, I try and engender loyalty and all of that stuff, but I also have it in my mind that my staff will move on. They will go on to bigger and better things. What I can do is when they go, I want them to go feeling good and being better than they arrived. And I don't want to leave on a bad note that they went because we fell out. I want them.
You want them to look back and go, I really enjoyed that time at FTC, and I grew and I developed, and you can look forward then, can't you, and sort of go and follow their career, and hopefully they come on to bigger and better things.
And also, like with my current assistant manager, obviously I'm training her to step up. I'm 55. By the time I'm 60, I don't necessarily want to be doing what I'm doing now, as in the gym all day, delivering, doing that kind of stuff. I expect her. I've also got a son that's 18. He's doing his level 2, level 3 at college, and numerous other stuff. And I've got other apprentices and staff within that I want to move forward and take the business. We're at that stage now where we potentially, we'll be looking at whether we open another club.
Wow.
And that's the big decision. Do I, in the next 12 months, sit back and go, right, let's just stay where we are, take what we've got, we've got strength here, or do I take the risk of opening another club and finding a place to do that and searching out and then figure out how I'm going to fund that kind of thing? Because my thing now is I don't really want to borrow any money. I want to pay for stuff outright because I'm in that position. Why pay $8,000 for something when you can get it for $6,000?
Absolutely.
I had to previously, obviously, when I started, but now I'm not necessarily in that boat. So,
well, if Club 1 can pay for Club 2,
yeah,
it makes a big difference, doesn't it? And from a profitability point of view as well, if you're not paying out $8,000 a month,
absolutely,
for kit, it's suddenly that's money in your pocket, isn't it?
And I'm kind of the mindset that I think there are strength in numbers with clubs as well. As a single club, I think you can. I'm just a little worried sometimes that you're a bit vulnerable to one of the chains plonking one on your doorstep. However, you just have to give better service. That it happens, and I think obviously if I can open more clubs in my area and have several clubs that my members can go to, all of them, it kind of strengthens my hand, I think, on that stuff. That's my mindset. That's how I'm thinking about it at the moment. Plus, I actually quite like the idea of building a new club, knowing what I know now.
It's good fun, isn't it? Opening and establishing a new product. I've done the pre-sales work. I've not been involved in the building of the product, but I've done pre-sales in clubs, and it's such an exciting time getting a new club open.
And I do like that design. I mean, where we are now with the club and how it looks is very much how I envisaged it years ago. We're kind of getting there now. And I wanted a club to look good, but I didn't want it to be the David Lloyd look, but I didn't want it to be a spit and sawdust. I kind of wanted somewhere in the middle.
So what would you change going forward? So obviously we've got Club 2, and you're sort of looking back and going, actually, these are the big lessons I've learned, and I ain't making those mistakes, or I'm going to do it slightly different for Club 2 if you did it.
I mean, I would. I didn't really have any options at the time about the staff. I kind of had to take the staff that I got at the time. I didn't really get to know them and stuff like that. I think, I would have the option of moving one of my current staff, like my assistant manager, into a new club and saying, right, you're now in charge of there, and move a new assistant manager into the current club where I could then oversee them, because that's what you can't do. You can't train staff up to do that and move them in. So, you engender a little bit of loyalty there and all that, and that challenge and drive into that person as well. So I think I'd be very more structured in the way I recruited staff and how I went about that. I wouldn't have to rely on certain people that I did back in the day, because I now know how to do those things I didn't know. So I've also got a really good black book of contacts. My networking was okay then, but it's even better now. So I've got a bigger plethora of people to fall back on and help. I've also got that ability to negotiate harder. I can now negotiate a better price, blah, blah, blah. Obviously.
It always helps having a gym that's 17,000 square foot, because suppliers want to be in those sites, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And, those companies know that. Obviously, I've got one successful gym, so they, some companies want to be part of that. They're looking for that kind of thing. So there's that kind of stuff. I think, obviously, to win the lottery and have all that money beforehand would be really helpful.
We can all keep dreaming on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I quite like the challenge of being under pressure, to be fair. It's what keeps us alive, isn't it? Keeps us on our toes.
Do you like it during the pressure, or is it more you look back and you go, I quite enjoyed that?
I'm
similar. At the time, at the time I hate it, but then I look back and go, you know what, we handled that. Let's go again. Every time we do the conferences. So is it a similar thing with the gyms?
Yeah. I really like the pressure at the time, being put under pressure. I mean, I probably produce, I'll probably come to the fore. I don't get flustered and stuff like that. I get a problem, deal with it. Yeah. But what I'm not one of these people. My wife's very process driven, has to have it in a certain order. It has to be done. She'll be organized and have it all planned. She's brilliant in that kind of way. So she's a great foil for me. Whereas if something drops on my lap, I kind of deal with it then and there, and it doesn't fluster me. But if that was to happen to my wife, that would blow her world apart. But she is, when you spoke about, you mentioned Wayne earlier. When we spoke to Wayne about our club rights system and that, we go mad if we get more than 10 defaults a day. Yeah, if it goes into double figures. And Wayne said we're one of the few clubs in the country that's under his thing that has less than 10 defaults on a daily basis. Yeah, because my wife chases it down because she doesn't allow it to get up into the big numbers. Yeah. We keep on top of it. We have this process. The staff are told, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, so those kind of things. We have this, and she is responsible for that and drives that forward.
I think it's important to have someone, though, who is process driven, because obviously any business needs that process to make sure it stays on the path. But it's also important to have someone like yourself who's a little bit more maverick, who will just make quick decisions, and it makes a really good team. I mean, I remember when I was at Marriott, I'm not a process person naturally. Everybody probably knows that. But I had an amazing assistant manager who that was her bread and butter, did it all day. So in terms of the operations of the club, it was great. It was just like, you do all that stuff. I'm going to do the exciting sales and marketing and all the glamorous stuff I'm doing. You can do all the and it just works as a partnership. That works really, really well because neither are trying to jump on each other's toes because you don't want to go and do the admin stuff and the process, and she doesn't want to do that stuff that you're doing. So you sort of keep your borders, your barriers, don't you? Which is quite nice.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I mean, obviously, she thinks I do nothing, obviously, because it's all about it's all about processes and stuff. And I'm being a bit mean there. She does know, but the day-to-day bread and butter of the stuff. But it's like Lucy, my assistant manager. I've taken her to shows. You both met her and stuff like that. And until she went to some of the shows and some of the industry events, I don't think she realised herself what I did, what you do when you go to these shows, what you go and looking at, who you're speaking to, the networking element, and all of that kind of stuff, and the business that's done at these events. Like this process of upgrading eGym started a year ago. The whole process started a year ago with that conversation with Tim and going out to FIBO and stuff like that.
There's a massive skill involved in that, though, John, in terms of because there's so many people that can go to those events and get nothing from it. But there's a massive skill of being able to network and bring the right people into your business. I mean, obviously, Rob knows it really well. I know it really well. And obviously, you do as well. And your business can go from here to here very quickly just by having those right conversations with the right people.
Absolutely. I mean, I flew into FIBO last year, got in the morning, got in a taxi, went to FIBO, spent an hour and a half in the centre. I went to the Matrix stand. I went to the eGym stand. I went to the Diaco stand. I went to the core stand, walked past the primal stand, and a couple of others. So harsh. And then I literally came straight outside, got on a bus, drove to Garninkirchen to go to the Gym AT factory to go and have a look around their equipment. Stayed there the night, got in a taxi, came back to the airport, got on my plane, back into the UK. It was like a whirlwind tour. But I did business within that hour and a half, 2 hours. I was in FIBO. Bang, bang, bang. I was having a problem with a piece of equipment with, that I had. We couldn't get a part for it being upgraded, but I needed to speak to the engineer, the European manager of repairs and all that sort of stuff for core. Spoke to him. He went, right, the reason is you need this, not that. He went, did it. That was that resolved. I've been on that issue for 2-3 months, getting the wrong part. But he resolved it because I saw him face to face and I was able to tell him. Sometimes you can't say that. I'd sent pictures in an email and I'd had discussions on the phone, but it still wasn't working. I saw that engineer face to face, discussed it with him. He went, yeah, know what the issue is. It's a new part. It's been upgraded. Bang, done. I then had a similar thing where about some of my Diaco kit, I was having an issue, spoke to them. They were like, yeah, done. Not a problem. That'll be resolved. Got to look at the Matrix kit that I particularly wanted with the integration. Got to see the Flex kit, eGym, done and dusted. Saw Neil Campbell, had a look at the stand that he was on, the talk stuff and that kind of things. Yeah. That's something I may be interested in and looking at. And then I literally walked out and then off to Gym 80's factory, which is worth a look in its own right, to be fair.
Is it?
Impressive, yeah. However, they won't be doing that this year. They're going to have a massive stand, aren't they? So... yeah.
I keep missing calls with Chris. Me and Chris keep arranging meetings, but never get around to doing it.
He was here yesterday.
I guess the interesting point in that, and I don't say this just because Rob's on, but it's really interesting to sort of go the importance of attending things like Rob's independent gyms group. There's a lot of independents that sit there, is it worth it? And you're going, it's one day out, guys. And the value you get, I know you get huge value out of it, but the value people can get from that can take their business to another level. And I never understand why you wouldn't take that day out of your business to go.
I've done so many things or spoke to so many people on the back of the Independent Gym Owners Conference, and obviously I've sat on the panel as well, which was really interesting for me. It was a good experience. I've obviously spoke to others. People have come and spoke to me about stuff. I've taken Lucy, my assistant manager. She's like, she sees the value in it. Done so much business or met people that have helped me out or done stuff over the, and I've been to 4 now, I think, on the trot. And obviously to have a good social as well at the end of it is always a good crack because you do business in that social part as well. You get to know people. You get to know the salesman's a salesman at the end of the day. They're there to sell you stuff, but you get to know the ones you like, the ones you think you can trust. And you have to form that relationship with any salesperson that you trust.
My mum always used to say, John, you buy from people. You don't buy products necessarily. You buy from people. I mean, she used to sell houses and whatever, but when you're selling a £500,000, £750,000 house, they can go and get it at the other estate. You know what I mean? She always says people buy from people, and I think that's why that social is so important at the end. Don't just go for the event; go for the social at the end if you can, because that's where you build
100%. 100%.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got my core people that helped me out at the very beginning. It'd be wrong of me not to mention him. Scott at Jordan was fundamental in helping me get my gym open. And not to mention him in my journey would be wrong. And I trust Scott more than most in the business. To be fair, he's a good lad. He's helped me out. Not everybody's cup of tea, but that's the way it is. Ian Daniels has helped me out. FQ. It's great to see him because he was at Core previously, wasn't he? Bought something off him. That's how I got him. How I got to know Core and stuff like that. And Wayne was there. He was I've had club right from the very beginning. I didn't know about the others, and I've grown with that. So there are certain people. Obviously met Rob along my journey, and Rob set this up, and I've always been pushing the benefits of the independent gyms. I had another gym owner who I met on Sunday that came here to train, and then we spoke about stuff. And I said to him, are you a member of the independent gym owners thing? Well, I am, but I'm not paid. He's just one of the unpaid member things. And I said, well, you need to do the paid one. And I said, you do realise we get discounts and it's worth coming to the conference because you find out stuff. Like we did that. We're in the process of doing recycling. We did the trainer thing. We got the box. I'm doing stuff. We're going solar panels. We're putting on the roof. Obviously, spoke with people about that. Obviously, equipment stuff, clothing ranges. There's just education. Just so many different things I've got benefits from. Grenada there, aren't they, every year? And other bits people, muscle finesse and all of that kind of stuff. So there's loads that you can get there for your business. And I think it's nice sometimes just to see one thing next to another as well. And, and it's nice to see kit next to each other from different, because we all like certain things, it depends how you want what you want. You can find your identity in there and compare one to the other and make, don't make rash decisions, but come back 6 months later and have another look.
Yeah, exactly.
I've always said as well, you don't know what you don't know. And I think the independent world can be quite siloed. They've got this view of what they want, but then when they go to an event, they probably don't go to many events. They might go to Body Power of old and the Arnolds, but they don't go to many of the trade shows. Mm-hmm. So when you can get out and about to an event and actually see different brands, and it just opens your eyes to what's out there. Anyway, we'll move on from my stuff because this is Ryan's podcast. I'm always pushing you, bud. John, you mentioned a couple of things, staffing, and then obviously sat on the panel. So a couple of events back, you did the panel about 24-hour opening.
Yes.
Tell us your journey on the 24-hour thing, because that's relatively new for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So obviously we opened. We had quite long hours when we first opened, 6 till 10 it was. We pulled that back because we didn't get a lot of people in the evening, so it came to 9 o'clock and then it went to 8 o'clock. Pandemic happened. Came out of the pandemic, had lots of staffing issues. There was obviously, I used to get fed up with people going, when they used to come in and ask about the club, are you open 24/7? I go, no, we're not. That's what Pure Gym and the rest of them do. Blah, blah, blah. I've never been a great fan of the 24. I just, was fundamentally worried about it and the health and safety aspect of it stuff. So that was always in the back of my mind as well. And then, you kind of leaving your club open to people when you're not there. So there's that element of it, that's a big step as well. So there was that side of it. And then I had a couple of friends that were going down the road of it. And then I had real staffing issues coming out the back of the pandemic, to the extent that I was putting double shifts. I mean, I did 17 double shifts, covering one of my staff in the first 6 months of that coming out of the pandemic. And that was just one member of staff that went sick. And he only did 3 shifts a week. And he went sick 17 times in 6 months, right? And then I had other staff going sick as well, or not turning up because that
sickness breeds sickness. Unfortunately, it's a weird thing, but it does.
Yeah, you know, and when you find out stuff that person's gone sick, and then another member of staff goes home, and that night they go to the pub and he's sat in the pub getting pissed, you know, it just really grips you. And I was like, right. And I had other issues as well. Like we used to have a counter and we were busy. We used to do shakes and coffees and all that kind of stuff. And stock used to go missing and those kind of things. And I kept saying stuff, if we don't sort this out, we're going to have to get vending machines. I'll just go 24/7, get rid of, you know, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, in the end, because of my own health and for me to be able to manage the club and also to get the numbers back, I had to go 24/7. You sometimes have to bite the bullet, whether you like it or not. And on a financial basis and a business basis, I just thought, actually, I've got to give this a go. You know, because we had 1,900 members before the pandemic. We went down to 1,100. We then went back up to 1,400. Financial crisis hit. We were back down to 1,200. So at 1,200, we weren't breaking even. It's as simple as that. Okay, and that. So we were very close to it, but not enough. You know what I mean? And so I took the decision that we go 24/7, got the funding, did all of that. So we are 6 people off 1,900 today. Okay.
Do you know what's really interesting you say that, John? We interviewed, me and Rob interviewed John, who opened Exercise for Less.
Yeah.
And he said exactly the same thing. His business was in trouble, didn't know. Well, obviously yours wasn't in trouble, but his was in trouble. And he's like, what do I do? So he he'd seen Pure Gym doing whatever and decided, I'm going to do it. And it changed his business overnight in terms of his financials. And that's how they ended up with Exercise for Less.
What I would say as well is also things fundamentally changed within the work climate with the pandemic. You know, because work from home happened. That arrived. That was always on the horizon, way down the line, that more people were going to work from home longer because obviously employment law and all of that sort of stuff, that was going to happen. But the pandemic literally brought it 10 years forward. Yeah. So you've now got more flexible working hours, and businesses realize that you can have people working at home, still be just as productive without having to pay for the electricity and lighting and the rent, you know. So it was a double whammy for a lot of businesses. And then obviously because you've got people with this flexible working program, that, you know, their gym access becomes more flexible as well. So you kind of have to be part of that. And I also, I have a good description, I think, of what 24/7 as well. Call it the BMW effect, all right? And what this is, BMWs, they have indicators, right? But they don't like to use them, or they're there, but they don't like to use them. 24/7 is much the same. Members have access, but they don't necessarily want to come in 24/7. They like to think that they've got it. And I call it the BMW effect. So, you know, 95% of my members don't come out of hours, haven't changed, as in they still come in. We now get a lot more people training up to 9-10 o'clock at night, and they come in an hour early, you know. So we've probably extended that by 3 hours, but actually I probably get 15-20 people in overnight.
And is there any other concerns that you had prior to that actually come to fruition? So all this leaving the club on its own, all that, have you had a negative off the back of that? Sort of go, actually, maybe we need to.
Well, I think, you know, so I live very close to my club, right? So, and also, one of the fundamental things is about our ethos, you know, and us and all of that sort of stuff, and providing a level of service. So I was worried I was going to lose a bit of our identity. So I make sure that I pop in and, you know, sporadically here and there. I also train now in the evenings and stuff like that, just so I'm around when we haven't got staff. But also a lot of my staff train out of hours as well. So they're in here, you know, showing the face. I've obviously got PTs that, you know, they're self-employed, but they're PTs here, you know. So I work heavily with them to keep them as part of the club, you know, part of our identity. Obviously, we've got surveillance cameras. One of the things I would say is obviously what you're going to have to expect is that things happen. You know, things get broken, usage goes up, little things, you know, like I had a shake spilt on the floor the other night when I wasn't here. So they haven't cleaned it up. It's been there all night. You come in, you've got a shake that's been there all night on the floor, splashed around. So then you're having to clean it up, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's not just as simple as wiping up, because now it's wrecked all the tiles. You know, it happens, but you just got to get your head around it. As much as it's frustrating and I want to swear and batter the person, You can't. They haven't done it deliberately. It's an accident. You've just got to kind of get your mindset around that. These things happen. Lockers get broken or whatever. It happens. Toilet seats get snapped. And also, I'm very big on people putting their stuff back as well and keeping a tidy.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah. Everything has its place, and there's a place for everything in my gym. So we try and engender that putting stuff back, and I say that to all the members. I say, look, if somebody's leaving their kit out, challenge them. It's your club. You speak to them. If they're then rude back to you, come speak to me. Then I'll speak to them. I do name and shame. I've put about 6 sets of dumbbells away over 6 years because people put them back.
Nothing worse than getting on like a leg press and it's got like 300 kilograms on it, and you're little like me.
Yeah. We get a bit more of it.
10 minutes trying to get the weights off.
Yeah, we get a bit more of it. But what I would say as well is the way our club's laid out, you've got storage racks for weights everywhere. So there's no need to be taking weights from one place to another. So they're there. And also I've removed the storage pins on the machines themselves.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because I don't like them on there because people just throw them on there. They're getting in there. So if you look at our storage racks for our weights, all the 1 1/4s together, all the 2 1/2s, all the 5s, they're in that order. Also, I got really pissed, to be fair, with people moving my adjustable benches around the gym. So in the end, I just bit the bullet, and I bought 15 adjustable benches. So I have one in my Smith's machine, one in each of my 3 DAPs, one in each of my racks. So that's 4. And then I have 7 in my dumbbell area. So now there is no need to move a bench around the gym. Because
I think you're going to say you bolted them to the floor.
I was very tempted to.
You can't put them back. You can't fucking move them.
I'm very tempted to bolt the ones in the dumbbell area to the floor, to be fair. The only bit of kit that doesn't have an adjustable bench is the cable crossover. And I am in the process of thinking, right, do I buy a 16th adjustable bench? You know what I mean? And I'm kind of, it's one bench, so I don't know why I'm under an hour about it. I should just do it.
Was it 300, 400 quid?
Yeah, exactly.
For one member.
And so there is that. And that's what we've got lots of equipment. We've got lots of weights. We've got lots of collars. We've got lots of storage. So, that helps that tidiness thing as well. But it's the older members that have been with us for years that get really pissed about it, to be fair. Oh, these new members are still, not putting their weights away. Like, well, tell them. Yeah. Tell them. It's your club. Tell them, for God's sake. So you don't have to swear at them, do you? You just tell them nicely, look, mate, if John sees you, he's going to go mental. And this does my head in. Flip-flops, sliders, Crocs, bare feet and socks. Yeah. Why does somebody think Crocs is a form of gym wear? You know what I mean?
Because they're bloody comfy, John, that's why.
I don't care how comfy they are. I will never own a pair, and they're not allowed in my gym. Right?
It's the same as the barefoot thing. The barefoot thing I've never understood. But then again, I've never been a big weight
because I've seen the world's strongest man in their bare feet doing a world record lift. And I've had some conversations with people, and I'm like, well, do you see Olympic lifters at the Olympics in bare feet, or are they in lifting shoes? You know what I mean? So
I don't understand it because quite often they're in socks as well. Yeah, so they're not quite barefoot, they're in socks. So how slippy are your feet?
Yeah, exactly. I had that conversation with somebody last night. I said, I'd rather you be in bare feet than socks, to be honest. I said, but how do you know what's on the floor? Is there a screw? Is there a sharp thing? I don't want your sweaty feet on my floor. You're putting them on my benches. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, nah, wear shoes.
Exactly.
Flip-flops. I'm like, I caught a guy on a treadmill with flip-flops.
Ugh.
I was like, what are you doing?
I'm getting ready for his holiday, clearly.
Yeah, I was like, Jesus, you know what I mean? Saying that, when I was in the military in Afghanistan, right, I walked into a gym there, and it was the Royal Marines gym, and there was 2 booties in flip-flops and their shorts working out, and they don't lift light, most of those. They're big boys. And they're bench pressing, they're in their flip-flops, and I'm thinking, if one of those weights falls on their feet, they're out of ops and they're back to the UK. You know what I mean? And
maybe that was the plan.
Yeah, maybe.
Sort of posting rather than a bullet in the foot and get a weight on it.
I had somebody come in the other day, and I was like, they were wearing jeans. I was like, do you really think that is gym wear? And he went, what do you mean? I went, don't come in my gym in jeans. Wear gym clothing. All right? You know, and so you drive that ethos and you do it very early. And then it spreads and generally, you know, it works really well. People know flip-flops, Crocs, and that are not my thing.
While we're on the X, John, what about filming in the gym?
Oh, I love the people that I'm an influencer. Yeah, right. 12 followers. You know what I mean? You know, they got their tripod up and they're filming and that. So I had a guy in with a tripod the other day, and I said, "It's a nice tripod." I said, "If they start to grow in my gym, I'll be banning them." I said, "It's all right."
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you sort of.
Not difficult in my opinion, right? I'm not having them. End of story.
No.
Right?
But what gets me is it's this almost like I'm a member of the gym. I can do what I want in there, and it's sort of going. Actually, you don't have the right to film because it's someone else's business.
Exactly. And then my other thing is PTs that have got membership at your club, but they're not PTing at your club, think that they can come and film their content in your club with your equipment. Yeah, while you've got PTs that are renting from you. You know, I've had a few conversations there as well, I can assure you. No, mate,
I think there's a bit of etiquette, isn't there? Because some owners don't mind, but they're still never asked. So I think if you're going to film in someone's gym, there should be right. Is John around? Do you mind? Yes, I do. Okay, I won't film. Not a problem. There's not even a conversation.
Yeah, there's a reason I mind. I've got PTs that pay rent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they pay rent. So why should another PT be coming to do their business that doesn't contribute to our business for free, basically, because they pay for a £30 membership? No. My PTs are paying way more than that. Yeah. So they get the privilege to be able to film, do their content, blah, blah, blah. You don't, sunshine. Out you go. If you don't like it, go join another gym that will allow you to do it. I ain't got an issue with that. You know, but I'm going to spread you. No, you're not spreading my name. You're spreading your name.
They never spread the name, John, because they never put FTC in the background or anything else.
You know, so.
And let's be honest, just because some local influencer has put, I'm training at FTC gym, isn't going to bring you any members. They're not, you know what I mean? They're not the Kardashians.
No, they're not. And they might think they're an influencer and all that, but they're not. End of story. You know, they're not. They haven't got. And if they've got 100,000 followers, those 100,000 aren't living in Ipswich, where I am.
Well, we used to have a couple of
100,000 people in Ipswich.
Well, my friend from Manchester, he had a mate who was a Gymshark influencer, and he had 500,000 people. And he was a really nice bloke, and my friend knew him really well, you know, personally. So he used to come in, he used to post it all over. I'm at such and such gym or whatever. We never got a single person from that. And this was a guy who's obviously massive influencer, proper, genuine fitness influencer. But we never got a single member from any of his posts. And he just did it because he was like, well, I'm training for free anyway because I know the owner. I'll put it up on the thing to be nice. But we never got a single thing from it. You're like, I think they need to understand that actually it doesn't drive that much, or if anything, for the club itself. And so there's no.
The other problem with them as well, and this is social media in general, as much as it's very important for the business and stuff like that, is also our nemesis, really, because obviously you get people leaving reviews. The only people that leave bad reviews are those that you've banned. Or, you know, or that kind of stuff. So you get these negative reviews, or you get competitors putting reviews up. You know, I never comment about another club. It's part of the professionalism in the business. And I would never, you know, publicly, never go onto a social media platform and criticize another gym. You know, there's plenty of space for us all out there. You know, I do go on about Pure Gym a little bit, but if you're a Pure Gym user, great, go use it. You know,
I'm with you on that one. Don't worry about that. You know,
it has its place in the market. You know, because if you travel around the country and you want to be able to access a gym, you know, somewhere like a chain like Pure Gym's ideal because they've got places all over. But if you train in one place particularly all the time, an independent is your bread and butter club because they will look after you, provide you with something more than what Pure Gym will do. You know, so there's a place for everywhere. So I don't diss that. But, you know, you get these crappy reviews from people. I mean, I've got 2 reviews on my Google thing. One is from a guy that's never actually been in the club but moaned because the car park was full, right? But he'd never been in the club. So he never found out that we had an overflow car park. He didn't also know that you could park on the street around the place. Yeah, he also came at peak time. We've also got an Asda's 201 meters away from where my club is, which has got a 2,000 car park, 2,000 space car park, which you can park in for 3 hours free. Now you come to the gym, if you can't walk 201 meters,
I bet he was coming into run as
why
well.
you go to the gym in the first place.
Yeah. So many people complain about not getting close to the gym, but they're going to drive to the gym, park, and run on a treadmill, and then drive home. They could run.
You know what's even worse about that? They've just driven from the estate that's 300 meters away.
Yeah.
There's that, and then there was one other person that moaned because they turned at 5:30 on a Monday night, and there wasn't a member of staff available to take them around and show them around. We've got somebody teaching, we were doing an induction, got somebody on the shop. You're like, you've come at the busiest time for any club during the week.
Phone up first, book an appointment, and
exactly that. So it is what it is. I don't often reply to. I'll say thank you to people that give us good reviews, but I don't often get into the conversation with certain people.
You don't win with keyboard warriors like that. So,
some I have gone back and corrected just because to paint the other side of the picture, because invariably, like I say, we had somebody give us a bad review because I caught him getting into my club for free because he got somebody to let him in and he got a copy of the QR code, taking a picture of it. And when I caught him, I called him out on it and he didn't like it. So he then gave us a bad review, but 99.9% of our reviews are excellent.
Absolutely.
I get rid of all of the review process because it's just, and I don't even look at reviews when I go look at a gym or anywhere else, to be fair, because I just know the only people that comment on them generally are those that wanted something and didn't get it.
It's usually somebody bitter, isn't it? They're bitter about something, and that's the reason. I always look at it as almost, I think, for every one person that posts something positive, you get 5 that will post negative.
Yeah.
Regardless of the ratios in real life. So I just think I use them as a tone, but I ignore I like reading the extreme ones just because it's a bit like get some popcorn out and see what's going on. But you just ignore them in the end, don't you?
I can't. If I get dragged into it, I just think, I sometimes want to say so much, but I can't.
No, exactly. Doesn't actually do you any favors, does it? When you start. Now, just to flip the conversation slightly, actually, John, just because I appreciate your time. In terms of, because you guys have an academy there now, don't you? Training them up. So, what brought that about? What's the benefit to the club, and how does that work? And why should other potential gym owners look at it as an option?
So when I was in the military and then I became an exercise rehab instructor, I was taught on my course, which was quite intense at Headley Court, and I really then bought into the CPD, continual professional development aspect of the business and stuff like that in the military. And one of the things the military are very good at is education, because you're obviously training other people, all that sort of stuff. So I bought into that whole process. It was all part of my military career. So when I came out and I became a master trainer and I went round other gyms, I was fed up of going into places and trying to teach something in the corner, like of the kettlebell area or something like that. Thrown into, you wouldn't go and teach French in the corner of a gym somewhere with loads of noise. So why would you teach, kettlebells, the fundamentals of it and the theory behind it while you're being surrounded by loads of people? You know what I mean? So I was like, I wanted to have an academy from day one with my gym, but I wanted to have a proper academy. So I've got a classroom, I've got a studio, and you do the technicalities, the stuff on the board in the classroom, which is all separate and that, and then you go into the studio, do whatever you need to do, or you go to the gym. So that was all part of that. And because I believe in education, and it's one of my passions within the industry, because only 20% of the industry does CPD. It's absolutely mind-blowing when you think about it, that we have an industry, and then we wonder why the NHS don't buy into what we do, or the government, and we don't get the sport we don't, because we're probably one of the most least professional industries in the country. Yeah, because you get people, well, I've trained all my life, I know better than some course, it's just robbing money off me. Absolutely pathetic. But that's all I can say about those people that have that mindset. I know better because I've done this all my life. No. I've got mates that have tinkered around with cars. Doesn't make them a mechanic. I wouldn't let them touch my car just because they play around with cars all their lives. And so I just find it absolutely mad. And we're dealing with people's human bodies. So we've got to have a level of education and standard within the industry first and foremost. And that's one of the other things, as Rob knows, I sit on the Independent Gym Owners Council with UK Active and stuff like that. And I'm very passionate about education. And I'm trying to, at the moment, the balance is wrong within the industry. There's too much online or not enough education going on. We need to bring contact time back, and we need to have standards, and those standards need to be enforced. Now, how that happens and when it happens is another kettle of fish.
I mean, they tried with reps, didn't they? They tried before, and they had reps. I think the problem was reps almost became it was like a beating stick. If you don't have this, you can't do it. And that's not what education is all about. It should be all about growing the industry and being better, rather than chasing a CPD point because it gives you this. It should be around what actually improves that person and what they need. And I think people were getting training just to get a CPD point, so they stayed current on, and that felt wrong to me.
Yeah, you're right that obviously education should be a positive aspect. Yeah, absolutely right. But yes, it should be a stick to beat people with, because we should have standards. End of story. You should be able to do the minimum standards. If you can't do that, you shouldn't be in the industry. You're working on people's human bodies. You got people that are giving out nutritional programs to people and they're not qualified.
Yeah, I see that one always gets me. You have a PT writing people's meal plans and stuff like that, and they're not a dietitian, and they've done a little bit of work on basic diet and nutrition, and now they're writing people's nutrition, full on program. And you're like going, but you're not qualified. That's what a dietitian's there for. So why? I don't believe any personal trainer should be writing people's meal plans. Yes, they can give advice, but to go into a proper dietary and write someone's full plan, I think you need to be a fully qualified dietitian.
I mean, I do a nutritional post every week on my social media. That is written by a qualified nutritionist. She works for Sainsbury's. Yeah, she does all the testing, flies around the world doing stuff. And I spoke to her specifically, and I said I wanted somebody who's qualified, knew what they're on about, that is a gym goer, doing me a little article every week. We have a skills trade. I give her a membership. She does this for me, and she writes. And I basically say to her, "Carte blanche, you write what you want to write, yeah, but it needs to be obviously related to the fitness thing." She does it, but it's somebody that is qualified, yeah, and she does really good stuff for us. It's only short and sharp. It's my pet hate. You get people that PTs that give programs out because it worked for them, not because it's going to work for the individual. Yeah. And, and programming and periodization of program, fundamental to what a PT does. Yeah. Yeah. Half of them wouldn't know what the word meant.
Do you think this is because education's been watered down in general? Because there's so many providers that can, like yourself, John, not like yourself, but anybody can open an academy and they want to get as many people through the course as they can because it's 1,000, 1,500 quid a time. So it waters it down to be the cheapest and the quickest we can do, and nobody actually learns anything. They just tick the boxes to get their insurance.
I think the problem is what Ryan was on about, that to get your points and stuff to be part of reps, people were doing courses not because it was a good course, because it was the cheapest course they could do to get the points, so they could then get the job.
Yeah,
and that's fundamentally wrong, and that's why you can get an online PT qualification for 300 quid, but they've never had any contact time, never learned how to, never done any sales, never done any working with people, all of these kind of stuff, and they're rubbish. They're absolutely rubbish at what they do. What I have found is that I've had a couple of apprentices over the last couple of years. They work for me doing their apprenticeship. Fantastic. Best way to teach them by a country mile is to take an apprentice on, because they learn on the job, but they've also got their academic study to do and that kind of stuff. So that's been great. We've got an academy ourselves. Our academy makes sure we have contact time, but we also allow that individual, if they join our academy, they get a gym membership here as well. So they can come in the gym. We allow them, and we say to them, look, speak to the PTs, speak to the staff. If you want to shadow them, ask them. And if they're okay with it, you can shadow them,
Is there a good pipeline for staff for you as well?
No, not really. Not at the moment, because the academy is not where I want it to be at the moment. But the next 12 to 24 months are a big part of what we're doing with the academy. So, because I was originally a third-party deliverer, and I got fed up with that. We were doing all the work, but not getting all the money.
Yeah.
And then obviously with the business going 24/7 and stuff like that, I've been engrossed in that. But also we've been setting up the academy, got accredited with IQ Active and all of that sort of stuff. So we're an academy in our own right now. But now we've now at that stage where we need to really publicize what we do, how we do it, get people on there. So we do level 2, level 3, and we're about to launch our level 4 strength and conditioning qualification.
Nice.
We do special pots, GP referrals, medical conditions, mental health. I was in discussions yesterday about looking at a massage qualification and course, and there's other things that we're looking at within that to deliver. But we are also a centre. We run TRX courses here through TRX. Yeah, I ran a CPD for my staff at the weekend with Paul Edmondson, one of the best educators in the business in this country. He just came and did some flexibility and recovery stuff with my guys. But that's me as a manager, as an owner, making sure my guys do education. I paid for that out of the business, and they came in and did it. And I try and engender that into them about the importance of education. And obviously, we're going to build that academy and offer that. We're not the cheapest, but we're not the most expensive. But you will get contact time. And those that have qualified with us invariably have gone on to do well and have a job within the industry and stayed within the industry after 2 years.
But that's the key, isn't it?
I mean, that's the key, because especially with personal trainers, they can go in there not talented, not new personal trainers really struggle because there's not enough sales in the course, a lot of the courses, and they just don't make it work. Technically, they're fine, but they just don't have the rest of it, do they?
Yeah. So what I try and do here with I won't have a PT that works for me that doesn't engage with CPD for a start. I won't take the money rent off anybody that doesn't engage with CPD for a start. Yeah. But also what we do with new ones that are newly qualified, and I'll only take them if I think they're a good trainer in the first place anyway and have potential and drive, is that often we'll give them a part-time job on staff here. We'll give them 20 hours a week. They deliver, they do classes, they get to know the members. Yeah. So they do that networking, they get their confidence up, then they start PTing, and then we'll do a graduated, rent for them over a 3 to 4 month period. And then if they want to go full time, they then go full time PTing. But I wouldn't charge them full amount on day one out of the academy or any other academy. That is just absolutely nuts. Yeah. Because I want them to be successful, and they're a direct reflection of my club, aren't they?
Of course they are.
You know what I mean?
And I think that's what a lot of places fail to realise, though. They have freelance PTs, or they're freelance, but actually they're probably one of the biggest influencers of your members in your club. And yet, if you treat them like a third party, they're going to act like a third party, and they're never going to give you the reputation that you want through them. Yeah. You almost want people to just think they're the same thing. Yeah,
and I'm very particular about what PTs I have and how many PTs I have as well. I could put loads of PTs in here, reduce the rent a little bit, and have loads and just take the money, and run kind of thing. But I don't want that. I'd rather them pay a decent amount. They're not the most expensive. They're not the cheapest in their rent, yeah. But they're all good quality PTs, and they're all different. So they all offer something different. Yeah. Okay. And we currently have 5 PTs in a 2,000 member gym. Yeah. There's plenty of room for more, but I'm probably going to get a 6th one. And then I'm seriously going to have to think whether I have any more than that. Yeah.
Well, you want them all to be able to make enough money, so they are successful. They've got a good standard of living, and that just feeds through to you guys, doesn't it? So
absolutely. They're on our website, so we put them on our website. I feature one of them every 6 weeks on our social media. I put a post up. They're on our app. They've got their own counter in the gym, which they're all up on there. So we deal with them. I encourage them if they want to deliver education, to do education, use our classroom, and that they get involved in our CPD. It's up to them about as how much they engage. Obviously, they wear their own brand, and I don't get them to teach classes or anything like that, or do shifts for us when they're PTing full time.
Yeah.
They drive their brand.
Now, I'm appreciative of time, John, because we've had you on for ages already. Just a couple of things I'd like to touch on is one is the work you do with UK Active. I mean, a lot of people don't quite understand what those guys do, and especially the sort of independent gyms group council that they created a couple of years ago that I know you're a big part of. So do you want to give people an understanding of what that group does and what you're trying to get out of it?
So obviously, years ago, when Rob was forming the independent gym owners group anyway, there was this thing about having our own council and our own representation and all of that sort of stuff. So that kind of happened. Then the pandemic happened, didn't it? And then obviously we were underrepresented within our world. And so they formed this working party during the pandemic as representatives from the industry, the independents in particular. So we had a voice to the government through TCMS and stuff like that. So it was formed, and it took several winds down the road to get where it is today.
Took a few tries, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And obviously there was lots of people interested initially, and then there's only a few of us now sat on there.
Yeah.
But you've got to have doers rather than watchers or people that are just going to sit there and moan about stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what you've also got to realise, we're now working in a land of bureaucracy, right? Bureaucracy has its own wheels and they turn very slowly. Yeah. And you've got to realise we're in it for the long term. We've got to set our targets for the long term goals. Yes, we want some short term wins, of course we do. But ultimately, the things that are important, standards, VAT, rates, all of those kind of things, right? And that they're long term goals. They're going to take years to do sometimes. Yeah. So that was my thing, and I wanted to be a voice on that. And be part of that committee. And I'm probably one of the older gym owners as well, because I came into the game late on the civvy side. So, I've got a little bit more life experience, and I'm probably a bit more vocal than some would like, to be fair, within that committee. But, if you don't say it, it's not going to happen, is it?
I think it's really important you have strong voices on that committee.
Yeah. And I'm quite happy to speak up. Say again?
You're willing to speak up, aren't you? I think there's a point where everyone sits and doesn't really say anything, not expecting a change. Yeah. You're one of the first to literally hand in the air, this is what I think, this is what we should do.
And now if somebody wants to say, I completely disagree with you, fine, say why, and I'll take that on board. And if they're right, I'll adjust my opinion. But what I will say, what people have got to realise, and people don't realise is those rates reductions didn't come about just because the government was feeling generous. Right, they came about because of the work the committee did, and UK Active did. Now, some people will moan about UK Active and say, "Oh, they just represent the chains and all that." But actually, we were an important voice on that committee. We provided a lot of information for them to go up to DCMS with the chains and say, "This is what's happening to us. We need this," and we got a rates reduction on the back of that. And we were fundamental in getting that rates reduction for the industry. Okay, absolutely fundamental in that move, and we wouldn't have got it without the support of UK Active. Okay, but UK Active wouldn't have got it without our support either. All right, because independent gyms, 3,500 of us, when you look at the chains, they're nowhere near that number.
I think the problem is as well, the chains have big, like Pure Gym, for instance, 280 clubs, but they still only have one voice really, because it's the chief exec or it's the board that it's their opinion. It's not the opinion of 280. Whereas if you've got 280 independents, it's 280 voices. Yeah. And I guess that one is a challenge because you've got too many voices there then. Yeah. But it's also there's a lot of opinions in that could make a big difference. And I think that's the challenge, isn't it? It's making sure everyone has that thing.
And that's the other challenge, is weeding out yes, every club has their challenges going on, that are causing them issues. But fundamentally, we need to know what the biggest challenges are that, like the rates relief, that was a massive relief, for everybody. Yeah. That gave instant relief financially for everybody, a bill that they didn't need to have at the time. So we're now campaigning for the rates relief to carry on forever. Whether we get that forever or not is another. But if we can get reduced rates going forward forever, that's a massive plus, isn't it? For us.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important for the independents to have that in there, which they didn't have before with UK Active. And I think UK Active, like Rob always reminds me, they do a lot of stuff behind the scenes that people don't see. And I think what needs to happen is the whole industry needs to start seeing what they are doing so that more people get behind them. So that gives, because that's the half the battle, isn't it? They don't have the full support of the industry. And while they don't have the full support, the government sees they don't have the full support. So it's that sort of that cycle. We almost need to go, actually draw a line, everyone get behind them, and let's see where we can take the movement. And
that sums it up nicely. I'll jump in there because I think the government essentially work off data, and we've only learned this since COVID. The government will make decisions based on the data that's fed to them. We need to provide that data. So UK Active is that middle ground. So if we're not feeding into the data or the opinions of the resources, then we can't complain about things not happening. The wider industry, the chains and the key accounts, they feed that data in because it's a single voice. The independents in the past generally don't. So we have to change the opinions of the independents so that the UK Active can then do the work for us.
As we say in the military, it's better to be in the barrel pissing out than being outside the barrel pissing in. All right. You know, if you're not actively part of an organisation, you don't get a say. You know, simple as. So if you don't have a say, you can stand there moaning about it as much as you like, but it ain't going to make any difference. Simple as, really. So I'd rather be part of that voice contributing. Okay. You know, we've got a rates reduction. We'll hopefully drive that forward. We'll keep banging that drum. We're trying to get a VAT reduction. Now, a lot of independent gym owners will go, well, VAT won't affect me because I'm not VAT registered. Well, it does affect you because the reason you're not VAT registered is because you're trying to stay under the threshold because we pay VAT. Yeah. So at the moment, you're battling constantly if you're not paying VAT to stay under the threshold. Yeah. Those that are over the threshold are paying it and we're getting raped over the fact. Yeah. So obviously, if we can reduce VAT, it's better for everybody. Yeah. Whether you pay it or not, because then you're not being worried about going over the threshold.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but they don't get that. They think that we're just looking after the bigger clubs. That's not the case. It's good for everybody to get a VAT reduction. And I also think that, you know, getting a VAT reduction, we're paying tax on health and well-being. How ridiculous is that? Yeah. You know, it's a fundamental joke. That
it is when Albania, I think it is, even a small country like Albania doesn't charge its health clubs tax.
Yeah, just a joke. So rates, VAT, so they're the two big things for me. Then it's about standards, you know, driving standards in the industry. I would like UK Active to bring out like a, you know, the old thing they have in the food industry, the old Michelin stars, you know, a standards thing. To get to the basic standard, to get you 1 star, you have to do this. You have to have an accountant. You have to file your accounts. You've got your health and safety in place. Blah, you've got all your contracts, minimal stuff. It's not about the equipment you've got in the gym. It's about the practices and processes you have in place. Yeah. Then to get your 2nd star, you know, it's about doing other things on top of that. Then to get your 3rd star to become a premium club, then you start to get into the nitty gritty of, you know, what they offer and the things that they have in there. But fundamentally, the 1 star, the 1st star is all about the standards that, you know, somebody coming into that club knows that it's safe, you know, knows that you service your equipment, knows that you're insured, knows that you've got qualified staff. You know, just by having that star on the door or whatever, they know that they're coming into somewhere that has got standards. Yeah.
But by doing that, those minimal standards to get those stars then raises the bar for everything.
Raises the industry. It also gets rid of the chaff and the rubbish. Yeah. You know, we've got people out there that are charlatans in the industry. I don't want them to be part of the industry I work for. Now, I'll say it to their face if they like. But if you don't have an insurance policy and you're not qualified and you don't do health and safety and you don't have contracts for your staff and stuff, you shouldn't be working in our industry. End of story.
100%.
You know, and unless we're big enough as an industry and as an independent organisation to stand up and say that and say to those people that we see every day, you know, and say to them, you shouldn't be in our industry because you're
that's the big difference between UK Active being a governing body and a trade body. Obviously, they're a trade body at the moment. You have to be a member and whatever to get the benefits. And it's almost sort of going, do we try and encourage that move so it's more of a industry body that everybody's a part of, and to own a gym you almost have to be a registered member of, because it's not a huge fee each year to be a member of UK Active. But
no, it's not. But I think the other thing is, obviously there are so many different types. We kind of get thrown in with, you know, boxing clubs, MMA clubs, bodybuilding clubs, CrossFit clubs, gyms, leisure centres. There's so many aspects, tennis clubs, football teams, you know, rugby teams. We kind of all get thrown into the same pile. We're not. You know, yes, we do fitness and well-being as our physiotherapists, you know, but they're not part of UK Active. You know, so we have to fundamentally identify what UK Active represent, you know, and where the standards, and there may be different standards for different things. Yeah. You know, but we need to sort that out, and there needs to be a baseline done. So that's a fundamental thing for me. Physiotherapy went through this 50, 60 years ago when they became the Chartered Society of Physiotherapy. Yeah. You cannot call yourself a physiotherapist unless you're registered as a chartered physiotherapist. Yeah. And you're a member of the Chartered Society of Physiotherapists. You can call yourself a therapist, but you can't call yourself a physiotherapist. It's a protected title. And the government are involved in that. The government brought legislation in to ensure that you had to do that. It needs to happen in our industry. And until the
I agree, and I think then we'll get the support of government, and then you'll find this link to NHS that they're trying to bring in will be far easier to do.
Absolutely.
And everything else, because you can almost guarantee the standards then, can't you? If you're part of that and you're registered, you're guaranteeing the standards, and they know if we work with John's club or they work with Rob's club, whatever, we know that minimum basic standards are there, and we can guarantee it across the board.
Absolutely, and that to me is one of the things. One of the drums I'm beating is about standards, qualifications, blah blah blah, the AT, the rates. I'm happy to beat a drum about anything else. If somebody wants to come and say to me, "Well, I think this is vital for the industry, and this is why," and they're in my region, I'll go and bang that drum for them at the meeting. But that's one of the other things that we don't do very well on the UK Active Committee. Is we're not advertised very well, the guys that are on the committee. All right, if you go on the UK,
so if an independent wants to bring something, do they know who to go to? So do they know to come to you? And maybe that's something we need to work on to highlight who they can approach.
And I think the other thing is we're so engrossed in I'm competing against the gym down the road, the other independent, or this gym. Right, let's face it, there's 14% of the UK public have a gym membership. Yeah, 14%. That means 86% of the country don't. Right?
Yep.
Your gym ain't going to be put out of business by another gym down the road. Okay? End of story. If you're doing a good enough job. Because there's 86% of the population still to attack. Yeah? All right? Our job is to get that 86% doing some form of fitness, whether that's doing a bowls club, coming to a class at your gym, going for a walk, blah, blah, blah. Right? Now, that's what we should be doing as an industry and with the government, because we know the NHS is absolutely on its arse because they're overworked, because they've got too many people with metabolic diseases, which could be cured. And we could get rid of them if people exercise more, but we don't.
The interesting point is
population exercise.
Because we're trying to go after helping the NHS, taking some of their workload in essence. Maybe it needs to be flipped a little bit and go, actually, we should be the group that are preventing it even getting to that. So rather than going after theirs and giving them an overflow, so we have the physios at our club and all that sort of stuff, what we need to be doing is going, okay, how can the government support us to stop them even getting to that? That, in my point, that's what we need to do. We need to drive participation, not take over the NHS, because I don't think we'll win that battle. We need to get the support to
and I bang that drum as well, because one of the things I don't think we do is that the government doesn't advertise on TV, social media and stuff like that about exercise enough. I remember when I was a kid, there used to be adverts on telly about doing some exercise or eating correctly. Do you remember the one where you used to have people stuffing bacon and eggs down their throat and stuff like that and then having a heart attack years ago? There's none of that, all of that stuff. And I think there should be a massive drive on TV and in the media to drive exercise and healthy well-being and a culture of healthy well-being, right? That's what should be done.
If they won't give us a VAT discount, John, that's where they should spend the money. They should almost come back and go, we're not going to give you a discount off your VAT because we don't think that's going to drive participation. Because I don't necessarily think it will. I don't think them giving us money back. It'll give the clubs more money. I don't think it will take that 14% to 20%. I don't think it'll have that impact. But what they could do is go, actually, that value is worth X billion. We're going to spend so many hundreds of million to drive participation. Because ultimately, whether we have more members in our gym making more profit or whether they give us a VAT discount making more profit, we'd probably be better off with more members because they'll spend more money elsewhere. So if they could support that, I think it'd be a start.
I mean, and yes, I agree with you, but also, right, the VAT thing for me is, right, they said to me, well, how would that benefit you? Well, I said, I won't have to put prices up. Yeah, simple as. If VAT stays, I'm going to have to put my prices up. If we get it removed, I don't have to put my prices up. That keeps it where it is, makes it accessible, yeah? Right? People, I do laugh when people go, oh, I can't afford to go to the gym. It's so expensive. Really? I mean, mine's £1 a day on the premium membership. £1.
It's the cheapest form of entertainment you'll find in the country.
Right. Yeah. Tell me what else you can do and go every day for £1, right? They have their fags, they have their mobile phone, they have their Sky TV, they have their cars. These people that say they've got no money. I'm like, really? You know what I mean? Yes, we have society's poor, right? But that's where local authority gyms should come into play. They should be providing for those that can't afford to pay for it themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And this is what we need to have. We need to have local authority gyms not competing against independents, but providing for those that can't afford it, or for those that are older, or for the infirm, and so on, right? But independents have their place, right? And independents shouldn't be too expensive, but you have the whole level. You have the low to the high cost, and wherever you can afford, you fall into that chain. And we should be encouraging people to access that at whatever level, and I find it fundamentally gutting when people say, I can't afford the gym. I'm like, really?
That's what I find really bad with the government not supporting it, because it's like, you wouldn't have to do a huge amount. You don't have to give money back. If you had a proper campaign, government funded, to push people into it, you'd increase. There would be a significant shift, even if it was only 5%. That's still millions of people, and so I think they could quite. But for whatever reason, the Tory government we currently have has no interest. Now, I'm not saying, Labour might be the same. We don't know.
I don't think it comes down to one party. I think it's all parties, because there's several issues here. Unfortunately, we have a culture in this country where we don't drive fitness, health, and well-being well enough. End of story. Right? So we need to change that. It needs to start at nursery school, and we need to get children exercising from a young age and drive that through, right the way through to adulthood. So it becomes a natural process to do. They've exercised all their life. It's part and parcel of their life. Learning a culture of being fit and healthy, but we've got into a culture where we're quite happy to allow people to be fat. And if you say anything about it, you're shaming them. We're not shaming them. I'm trying to look after somebody who's unhealthy so they have a better life, So I don't believe in shaming people. That's not good. And that's not positive. But we need to have positive ethos.
But we shouldn't be positively reinforcing being overweight and obese.
Yeah, being overweight. Exactly.
We actively do that. You look at, I can't remember the singer's name. A really, really big lady. She comes on. Everyone's like, look how big and beautiful. And you're like, I admire her for wearing what she does on stage. I do, but she's obese.
Yeah,
we shouldn't be celebrating that for our youngsters to look up to that.
And we shouldn't be celebrating. And then the other fundamental thing that is wrong with this country is that doctors' practices own the pharmacies that they give the medicine out to. So every time a doctor writes you a prescription, they're getting a kickback. Yeah. So why would a doctor prescribe you exercise when he could give you tablets that give him a kickback? Call me cynical.
No, well, it's the same thing with Big Pharma, isn't it? Why would they use it? Why isn't cannabis and things like that used in drugs very much? Simply because it can solve so many ailments, and Big Pharma won't make money out of it. So
and that's where politicians fall down for me. We need to sort out this big issue that about pharmacies, prescription of medication, and so on, and the link, and drive a healthy ethos. These things are fundamental, and they're going to take years and years and years of
I think the other challenge you have, John, is as well, they only have a 5-year term.
Yeah.
To solve obesity and to solve diabetes and everything else is a 10, 15, 20-year problem. And these politicians won't see the benefit. And almost they could bring something in, get to the next election, they haven't achieved anything, all that money spent, get to the next election, still haven't achieved it. And that's half the problem as well. Whereas putting another 5 billion into the NHS, everyone goes, wow, they're spending more money. Putting more, that sort of stuff, they can physically, it's a vote winner.
It is.
Healthy lifestyle isn't a vote winner.
I have major fundamental issues with the NHS, to be fair. We keep throwing good money after bad. It's a broken system. It needs sorting out, and it needs sorting out from the bottom upwards. And it needs fundamental reform, and it needs all the parties to come together to have a working group that deals with that and actually reform.
If you want to hear how bad it is, speak to Mike Evans. If you know Mike Evans, he did a 6 months secondment working with Serco on one of the hospitals, and the wastage of money and stuff like that. He was telling me it was unbelievable. You've got someone checking someone who's checking someone who's checking someone, and they're all on 6-figure salaries. To make that.
Well, I've got a friend that works in the building trade. He is a project manager, and he says an NHS contract is like the golden goose. Yeah, he says you're getting paid an absolute fortune, so you'll get £200,000 for a job that only costs £20,000 to do. Literally, and I'm not kidding when I say that.
It's bonkers.
I'm not over exaggerating that. They're getting 10 times as much money. So if you can get an NHS contract for anything when it comes to building and that, they lap it up. It's just
that's why HS2 was such a big money spinner for some of these companies. They're making a fortune, and that's why the price kept going up.
Well, that's the thing with government projects, isn't it? That there is, but fundamentally though, get back to where we were with the industry. We've got our own issues. We need to address those. There are other issues, and being on the council, I can have a voice and try and hopefully do some good for our industry. I would like to leave the industry knowing that I've done something positive for the industry, not just for myself, but for the industry as a whole, for those coming into the industry. That's where so hopefully, I bang the drum. I hopefully set my standards and I do those things myself. I say to my staff, we're going to do this, and this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do CPD. We're going to service our equipment. We're going to be insured. We're going to have our health and safety. We're going to have everything there that we need to have there, in place, and all of that sort of stuff, and set the standard. That's where
absolutely as it should be. Now, we've had you on for quite a long time, John. So I'm going to ask one more question, but I'll let Rob see if he's got any more to throw in before we do.
The only one I was going to ask is bring it back to FTC. What's the future? What's the
right? So I'd love to have another club and several clubs. I've looked at the map and I've seen where it's whether I've got time to do that left, in my career. I have got a son. My son's 18. He's doing his course, and I've got this manager. My son's got Asperger's. He's high functioning as well, so it's whether he can step up to the mark. And he's already said to me, "I'm not allowed to sell it because he wants to take it over."
Good on him.
Well, I mean, I could sell it and walk away into the sun with the missus. The missus would sell it tomorrow, I think. But in the same token, I say that, and she goes, "No, I'm quite happy to take it on." But the work that's involved, is a lot. So I'm really, this next 12 months are a big 12 months for me to really focus on whether we're going to do another club. I've then got to find somewhere. I've got to sort that out and do that, and go from there. Yeah. So yeah,
I think it's going to happen. I can see 2 or 3.
So the next actual 12 months, short term wise, I'm doing a big upgrading in my own gym, so we're replacing equipment, we're making stuff better. We're doing the finer things that I could never do before. I had the internet guys in yesterday, look at all my cameras and that. When I had them put in, the wiring was shocking. Okay. So they're now going to rip out all the wiring, redo it properly, future safe it for, future proof it for the future coming, and do that. And it's a cost that I can now meet. I'm going to get some flagpoles up on the front of my car park and put my flag up. Things I wouldn't have wasted money on previously because a leg press was more important. But actually, a flagpole at the front with my flag and a sign on the back of my building so everybody can see where it is. They're fundamental things now that I can afford to spend money on the niceties of the gym and make it better. Yeah, nice. So that's what I'm doing for the next 12 months. Then comes the next gym. Taking a dividend would be nice. You're actually making some money 6 years down the line. Yes, I've paid myself a salary, and people say to me, "Oh, you must be worth a fortune. You've got that gym and blah blah blah." But I pay myself a salary. I've always paid myself a proper salary, but I've never taken a dividend in 6 years, and I've still got a massive director's loan, to pay back. So hopefully, taking that forward, I'll be able to get some of that back, and I'll be able to redecorate my house that has seen no decoration in the last 6 years.
Nice. So, well, at least that's an exciting project to come. And one final question then, John, in terms of what inspires you to do what you do, what would you say? Is it a person? Is it a feeling? What is it that motivates you to do and get out of bed in the morning?
Several things, right? So obviously I was brought up in a military family. My dad comes from working class background. My family come from Rochdale, proper working class background. Yeah, I was the first person in my family to do a degree. Okay, on my side of the family, to go to a university. I was 38 when I did it, get a degree. I'm looking at doing a master's. And what inspires me is to be the best that I can and be better than I was yesterday and stuff like that. And I joined up, and when people say to me, "Oh, you can't do that," that to me is a great, yeah, I can, and I'm going to show you. I've had several people do that along my way, and I'll stand up and try and prove it. I was one of those kids that was at school, could do better if he applied himself. Yeah. Okay. So I was one of those. So I'd love to be able to show one of my teachers from 40, 50 years ago my reports and say, this is where I am now. This is where you said I had the ability, but hopefully I can now show you that I put that ability in place. And then I also, I was only speaking to somebody the other week. I worked at RF Cranwell, which is the officer cadet training school for the Air Force, right? So that's where we train all our officers. So it's all about leadership and all that sort of stuff. And I was taking a run. I had 50 odd cadets, maybe 100 cadets on this run, and I was leading the run, and I had a female officer with me running as well. Well, we were doing a loaded march, so it wasn't really a run; it was a loaded march. So we were forced marching, yeah. So we were marching pace with webbing and stuff on. They were. The female officer wasn't. She was a bit of a fat lump, okay, and she was struggling to keep up. And we came into this conversation. I said, "Oh, I think I might go for a commission, in the RAF." And she said to me, she said, "Cool, Grindrod, if you ever take a commission, I will have to resign mine." Right? And I thought to myself back then, I thought, how insulting is that? There's me aspirationally wanting to make myself better, and I've got this woman who thinks she's better than me, telling me that even if I did make myself better, she wouldn't want to be part of that. And I thought it was the worst part of leadership I've ever had or ever experienced. Yeah. And I thought to myself, well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you. So I did my career. I got through. I was a warrant officer in Afghanistan. So I got as high as I could. And I would have been a warrant officer in the Air Force for another 10 years if I'd stayed in. And I did that. But I then got out and set my own business. And every day is about making that business better. And I always reflect back to that particular woman and what she said to me. And I'm going to show you how good I can be. And you'll be sat in your little house, with your military pension. But I'm going to be a businessman that's going to make some serious money and make a change to lots of people's lives. That's what drives me.
And I think that's an amazing place to end it, John. So thank you ever so much. We rarely get nearly 2 hours with someone. So
sorry.
No.
I knew it was going to be a long one with John.
Yeah, I do apologize.
I really appreciate your time. Obviously, we hope everybody else enjoys it. If you want to get in touch with John, obviously all his details will be at the end of the podcast. Feel free to reach out with him, especially with his UK active links. But other than that, thank you very much for your time, John, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Excellent. Thank you very much for inviting me on. Most appreciated.